All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is June 28th, 2022, and we will call the school committee meeting to order. It is now 3 p.m. As a reminder, this video is being both audio and videotaped, and if there's anyone who is doing so in the audience, which there is not, and if there's anyone doing so online, if they could raise their hand and let us know. All right, so we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start with a roll call. Kathy, do you mind starting us off?
Secretary.
Gregory Thompson.
Antonella Urshela.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Sarah Trulio.
Bill Fonseca.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Thank you. So we have no minutes today to approve. Are there any committee or subcommittee communications? Greg, Antonella?
I'm good.
No? All right. We now have an opportunity for visitors to address our committee. If there's anyone on camera?
No one online.
Okay. All right, then we will move forward with our superintendent's report that is related to preschool enrollment. And I know we have some guests here.
We do. So we have Ms. Lodi and Shay from Meadowbrook School, principal and assistant principal.
Welcome.
Them.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
And as you know, we've been working on creating a new preschool model. And so there are a lot of different things that we have begun to change and begun to hire for, but as we've done so, we're also looking at referrals that are coming in from early intervention, referrals that we were still processing through at the end of the school year. And so one of the things that we would like to discuss with you all today is where we are with preschool enrollment and possible projected enrollment. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lodi and Ms. Shea to sort of walk you through some of the things that they're working through both at the end of the school year and will have to work through this summer.
So over the past 8 years that I have worked in East Longmeadow, I have seen the needs of our preschool program shift and change substantially. Never more so than I have seen this year. As we are closing out the end of the 2021-2022 school year and beginning to plan for the fall, started building out our class lists as we always do, and have come to a point where I think we need some help. We are seeing not only the specific needs of the students change and become more significant, but the number of students with those needs has changed. I attribute this in part to stuff that has happened in relation to the pandemic. Our kiddos that are coming of preschool age now were in social isolation during their most formative developmental years. Young children learn primarily through play and interaction, and they were deprived of that for a good period of their youngest years. And in addition to that, the provision of early intervention services through EI was extremely challenging. EI was presenting their services up until very recently fully remote, and thinking about providing services such as occupational therapy or speech and language therapy to a 2-year-old through a video screen, and how effective that may or may not have been for those children.
And EI is early intervention, right? For folks who didn't realize that.
In addition to that, I think based on some research that I did recently, we're also seeing an underrepresentation of students receiving EI services during that time. Families were not socializing, and so they were not seeing other children and the development of other children as compared to their own. And I think as a result of that, a number of families may not have realized developmental delays that were happening with their own children because they had no typical peers to compare them with. And therefore, the number of students that were referred for those EI services at such a young age was less than we've seen in the past. And so the result of that now, both of those things combined, is that we're seeing a greater degree of referrals to our preschool program for students with significant and complex needs. We're seeing students who maybe in the past had been able to catch up with EI services, not having received those services, coming directly to our program. We're also seeing kiddos coming at a much later age into our preschool program than we had in the past, particularly a lot of referrals in the 4-year-old age group, when in the past the primary amount of referrals had been through our 3-year-old age group. And so going into the start of next year, as it stands right now, actually, let me back up for a minute. There are special guidelines for the number of students in a peer partner inclusion preschool program in regard to the number of students on IEPs as compared to the number of peer partners in the program. The highest number of students on IEPs that you should have in a program is 7, and that is when partnered with 8 typically developing peers. Those ratios change depending on how many total number of students in a classroom, but 7 being the maximum that you can have at any time. So we're going into the 2022-2023 school year with 2 sessions of half-day preschool right now and 2 sessions of full-day preschool. In our half-day sessions, keeping in mind 7 is the max, we currently have 7 in one room, 7 in one session, 6 in the other session. So we have 1 slot left for a special education student in our half-day program. And in our full-day programs, we are beginning of the year with 8 and 8. So we are already over our maximum for number of students on IEPs in both of our full-day programs to start the school year. 15 is our hope. It would be 8 peers with 7 students on IEPs. And putting that in the context of the number of students we evaluated during this current school year that we're just closing out, we evaluated approximately 30 students of preschool age for developmental delays, and of those 30, 18 of them qualified last year. So knowing that we are already at 7, 6, 8, and 8 heading into the school year, we already have 10 referrals pending for the fall. Most of those referrals are kiddos with birthdays in August and September that are just turning 3 and therefore just aging into our program. And knowing that we qualified a total of 18 kids last year, I'm here to talk to you about the potential for expanding our program in order to be able to accommodate some of those students without being out of compliance with guidelines. I do feel it is possible for us to do this. I know one question that comes up that always has to do with are we going to get enough peers in order to fill those slots? I just had another parent walk in as I was walking out the door to ask for a preschool application. We have 24 students who applied as peers who got their applications in before the January 31st deadline, who we've already accepted into the program. We have another 12 currently on the waiting list for a total of 36 peers.
37 with the person who walked in.
36 with I counted them. They had pens to paper. They were filling out that application. So if we were to add an additional preschool section, that would be 2 half days and 3 full days. At 8 peers in each, that would give us room for up to 40 peers, and we already have 36 applicants for our program, and I have no doubt we could easily fill those extra 4 spots. Another thing to consider when thinking about this is the fact that we have a $2,200 tuition for the half-day program and a $6,000 tuition for the full-day program. And so the way it stands currently with the 2 half-days and 2 full days, if we were to fill all those peer spots, our tuition revenue would total $131,200. If we were to add an additional full-day program, it would bring in an additional $48,000 into the revolving account, bringing that total revenue up to $179,200. So in my mind, and there may be things I'm not thinking about, so feel free to weigh in here, that becomes kind of a self-sustaining program, which would cover the cost of a salary for an additional teacher for this program.
48,000.
The program would bring in $179,200.
Well, it already brings in 131 though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The
It
other,
will already bring in. It doesn't yet.
The only additional is the 48.
On top of what we have, right, so this is all.
131's coming now.
right. But
It will be, but
Will
that's,
be.
but
that's
we
new
would be in a
because,
situation where we'd be out of the guidelines for preschool if we stay in the current situation. And then the other element, one of the reasons why we wanted to do it sooner rather than later when the 10, say, are evaluated and we see how many come in from the 10, is that we have folks on a wait list now. If they hear from us within the next few days, we know we can secure them where they may go and get other accommodations if they don't hear from us.
Mhm.
And so,
do have folks calling me almost on a daily basis asking whether they're gonna be pulled off the wait list or not. And I think that's that. Folks are trying to plan for the fall, and know that their kiddos have a spot somewhere.
Right.
And I worry that if we wait too long, we might lose out on some of those years.
Can I just remind the committee that, I'm wrapping up the fiscal year, so I'm looking at all the revolving accounts and the grants, et cetera. The tuition revolving account, which is from preschool and special ed tuition, if we have like a student that we have had from another district and that brings in a revenue source. So I'm rolling over $214,000 into next year, so this is also a funding source that could be for the preschool. In addition to that, I just want to remind you that we have circuit breaker funding, which is, we talked about the importance of that. We talked about how we had to go back to town council once, and we don't ever want to have to do that again. And special ed, is very fluid, it changes all the time. And we are, right now, there's a balance in there about $600,000. And then I'm expecting the fourth quarter payment. Sometimes it comes in this fiscal year, sometimes it comes into July. So I'm not sure when it'll be booked. But in addition to that is we get the regular circuit breaker, which I anticipate another additional $800,000. So my point is we do have funding sources for special ed, and I feel this is special education. So just wanted to remind you of that.
In my 8 years here, I've never started off a year where we've already pretty much been maxed out or over classroom capacity before the school year has even started. We have kiddos that age in throughout the course of the year. So, for example, we were still picking up students on IEPs for our preschool program in June of this past year for our current preschool program, because when they turn 3, technically it's 2 years, 9 months, they can come out of EI services and come into the public school setting. So it is a little worrisome to me that we're going into the year already at or above the recommended limits for students on IEPs, the ratios. Knowing that last year we qualified 18 more students throughout the course of the school year.
Are students in preschool for age 3 and then age 4, they go into first
No,
kindergarten, I mean?
3 and 4, they
3 and
stay
4.
in preschool.
not until they turn 5 as of September 1st. So we have some kids in preschool that are like 4 years, 11 months old, starting the school year.
And then when they turn 5, do they go? No, they still
They
go.
stay.
So they're with you for the whole year.
So in some cases, we have students in preschool for up to 3 years.
So they can be actually 5 years old, still in preschool because of the
Yes,
birthday.
5 by
Exactly.
September.
Okay.
So what if in a couple years we don't have the numbers and we added another position there? What happens then?
So you'd have to, you'd have to review that at that
And close the
time. And
section.
you can always, basically, if you're funding it right now through somewhat of a self-sustaining program, you know, and that if that were to be the case, you would have to review it at the time and you could do a reduction in force.
Okay.
Technically, I guess it would be sort of like an employee at will, a little bit less so here because the person would be coming in on a unit A, so it would have to go to a reduction in force.
And I just in considering that question, I think about when we had come, gosh, what was it, 6 years ago now? To ask about the class size reduction
Yeah.
teacher, or what's sometimes known as the bubble teacher for kindergarten. That need has not gone away. We've needed that person right along. It's been needed in different places. So that position has kind of shifted around. So while one would hope that we wouldn't have such a high level of need because the kids would get supported at a younger age, I don't want to discount that we might still need that in a few years too.
And the town is still growing. I mean, there's new construction and they're filling it.
Right, no.
We hope to have even more new construction.
Joe, I know there is.
Right.
I'm
Right
definitely
at this
for
spot.
smaller class sizes, especially if these kids need it. I have a niece who's 3, so I know exactly what you guys are talking about with the development, and because she was isolated
Mm-hmm.
the past
Yeah.
few years.
They don't know anything but their siblings and that's not,
No,
can't
and
develop
even
that way.
no,
Yeah,
it
you
wasn't-
can't.
They weren't, she wasn't socializing
No.
with anybody else.
right?
The classrooms have a teacher and a paraprofessional, the preschools, so it would be 2 additional positions required for the
We were
classroom.
just sitting down today looking at our staffing. We didn't get to finish before coming here, but looking at what we have for current staffing to see how that might be utilized.
To not need additional 2 FTEs.
I'll let Gordon speak to that.
So your paras, the preschool, as we set up the preschool, what we're trying to do is set up a model where we have the FTEs needed so that as students come in off of early intervention, they're not needing necessarily a one-to-one para. So we have in our preschool rooms now, the current ones, we actually have more than one para. However,
Right.
we
But,
all,
but one of the paras is dedicated, is the classroom para, is that fair to say?
I think you're gonna have more. In the preschool model we're building, we're trying to have.
There's one-to-one paras.
We're trying to
We're
move
also
away
building,
from
we're
that.
building classroom paras, more than one, in the preschool model. So as we look to create this new preschool, however, we don't know, if you have a class of 15,
Yeah.
we're gonna have more than one para in there
How
with
many,
that teacher.
how many in that room then? And then
Possibly 4.
When we went through the
So
independent,
how is this isn't anywhere near self-funding then, if it's 4 positions? Is that what we're asking, to add 4 people, FTEs?
No, we're working with our current paraprofessionals, plus the fact that what you were just alluding to, the fact that we have many one-to-ones. So we're working through that. This year is gonna be the first year where we're staff heavy. And yes, some of those paras right now will have to be on either circuit breaker or ESSER.
Right, so your question is, are we gonna need a
How-
teacher and a para? Yes, a para.
But more than that.
Not necessarily, because we're not necessarily at 15 right now, correct?
so
And so right now, there are 3 teachers, or 3 teachers in the preschool.
yes,
How many paraprofessionals in the preschool?
I haven't finished the staffing allocation. It's going to depend on the number of students. And
Roughly.
part of the reason for that is when we went through the independent program evaluation, the recommendation was a staffing ratio for preschool of 1 to 3. So 1 adult for every 3 kids. So that
5 adults in a classroom.
potentially.
Potentially.
The
But one
idea
of the
behind
things we
that
also- Sorry, go ahead.
is to front load the support. We have a number of students with pretty significant and complex needs who in the past have required one-to-one paraprofessionals. We're hoping to move away from a model where we're needing to provide one-to-one paraprofessionals by heavily staffing the preschool program so that those paras can shift and move between classrooms in order to support kids, especially when we have 3-year-olds that are aging in, say, in January with significant needs who we know nothing about. We're able to now shift the para from this room over to here to support that kiddo when they first come in, get a better idea of their needs, and really truly assess the level of support those kids need.
So last year
Um,
then, how many paras did you have per classroom? One-on-one
Per-
and class?
Per classroom, we had,
Or across the whole thing? With all the preschool paras, how many?
Well, let's-
not counting one-to-ones,
Count
or
the one-on-ones, because
Oh.
we're getting rid of those, is what I'm saying.
Well, so there's.
But we're
there's
not,
the
because
piece.
they're already
I
in.
don't have
now.
that number off the top of my head.
We're gonna be working.
trying to phase
through
that out.
Piece with,
Yeah.
annual evaluations. But that's gonna
But is
take,
that gonna work? Is
That's
that,
what I was-
people are used to one-to-one. I don't know that we're all gonna, all of a sudden gonna say, well, we're not doing
well,
one-to-ones
it's
anymore.
working,
And they're
it's
gonna say,
working for the
okay.
models that we reviewed
Yeah.
when we made that
Oh, that's
presentation.
good.
But it takes time. You can't have it all happen in
Yeah.
one year. It's gonna take time as we hit those annual reviews, and people need to see what we have in place. So you have to put the staff in place first and then work through it.
So then to that question, what is the staff, additional staff requested to
Fill this
to
need.
fill another preschool? You
Currently-
can't be like wishy-washy about that number. That's the real number.
I'm here today to ask for an additional teacher in hopes that I can use the staff that we have in a creative way
You're
to
gonna find 4 paras within Meadowbrook?
But this preschool room right now may not need 4 paras. There's other preschool rooms, the 3 we had
Well,
set
but
up.
it will, because our model is 5 at some point. Whether it's this year or next year, we're gonna wanna go to 5.
Including
So
the
it's an
teacher,
additional
yeah.
5 FTEs.
No, not,
It is.
no, not right now.
Well, maybe 3. Maybe 3.
Well, so what if,
Not at the
if
moment,
what's
it's not.
driving this is IEPs though,
Right.
we do
IEPs we have to do.
Correct.
exactly,
Yes.
Greg, so.
And you have to set up
exactly.
a model to meet the ratios,
Well, and,
So,
but let's
which
be
is why-
honest about the ratios. They're
which is why.
highly recommended, but they're not required.
It
Where does it say we're gonna lose funding and then we'll
doesn't say you
The
lose
one to-
funding, but they are required.
The 1 to
It's
3
not required.
is a recommendation.
Recommendation, yes.
The 2 staff per 15
No, I'm talking
is not.
the 7 to 8
That is an EEC.
recommended.
No, that's actually a
Mm,
recommendation.
We are already over it though. What are we gonna do? Just, we're over it already.
That's right.
That's why they're
Well,
asking.
we would do it if we said no to the additional classroom. What are we gonna do? How about that as a question? What, if no is the
Then we
answer
end
to
up
preschool? What happens to those kids that need it, the preschool?
They still have to come in and we're gonna be very far out of compliance with
And then what
compliance.
happens though, for, my saying is that we're not gonna have to shut the program down.
Well, you'd be not providing the services that you're supposed to provide, which then puts us into a really challenging situation.
families would have
Families-
recourse.
Then find the FTEs, because we just added 7, the town added 10, and next year we're gonna have to cut. So any positions we add, I am not comfortable adding FTEs to our budget. I don't wanna do
It's
it.
not to the
I
budget.
agree, it is to the budget, because we're
Funding
adding,
sources.
But no, it's not, to the operational.
Pam, it's $48,000 additional.
No, that's not true. Right now,
It
we
is
only,
true.
no, next year, it's, oh, so you're saying just 48,000
If we don't
for
do
the
the preschool,
additional?
the new classroom, we still get the 131, that's coming already.
Okay, and we also
The
then
additional
have the.
classroom generates the new 8 students, that's all we're gonna get.
$200,000 in
$48,000.
tuition revolving, that's.
And Greg,
rolled
circuit
over.
breaker
Circuit breaker.
and IDEA are
That's what it's there.
two
I know, I'm just
grants
not,
that
I'm not in
are-
favor of
I mean,
doing it this
You
way.
can't run special education without providing staff that are needed in IEPs. Every
I
year.
agree with that, but
we-
we just added
we
7
have-
FTEs, to add another 3
But the
is
7
not
FTEs
responsible.
weren't necessarily for special education. So that's why you have circuit breaker and IDEA, because there are often times where we have to meet needs that are in IEPs, which become legal documents. And we have to go with someone for duration of need. And then you reassess. And that's where the reevaluations come in. And hopefully, this new model is going to put us in a place where we're not seeing those one-to-ones written in all the time. Because you're right, once they're written in, it's really challenging
Still 5 more
to,
FTEs than we would not need for if we didn't have it.
not right now, it's not 5 FTEs.
It will be.
We don't know
If
that.
we only have 3 classrooms now and the model is 5, then we add a 4th classroom, that's an additional 5. It is.
Not at the start.
Well, even worse then, because now we're committing ourselves to 3 FTEs this year, 2 more next year. I'm not saying it's not worthwhile, but let's find the FTEs somewhere else. I know that's not easy to do, I get that,
I
but
don't think you're
we
gonna be able to
just
do it at
added
all.
7. To add another 3 is not responsible because we will have to cut next year.
And just to be clear, the 131,000 is not something we've ever had in the past. We only charged 1,800 for tuition in the past. And so that's significant increase over the revenue that we've brought in through our preschool program previously. 1,800 versus 6,000.
But we're gonna staff them now too.
But you have.
I understand
you
that
have
point. We're
three-
charging more for
three
tuition now.
funding sources that are outside the operational budget that are targeted for special education, for this situation.
Not for FTEs, I don't agree with that, because if to
Absolutely for
fund,
FTEs,
the
because
town is on the hook for all the benefits of these, and that, the grant money does not pay that. So every FTE we add, the town is on the hook for the benefits and the retirement. We are not currently able to fund OPEB now, and so we continue to add employees like it doesn't cost us anything. We just added 7, to add 3 more is unprecedented. We have never done anywhere near 10, Bill. Have we ever done close to 10 employees in one year?
No, but I think you're talking apples and oranges here. I really do, because we address needs in our budget. This came out of the blue like it did 6 years ago with the kindergarten class.
That's fine, I agree, I understand that, but we're still adding 10 employees.
I understand that, but I don't think the town never said There's a moratorium on hiring. They never said it.
Well, but this is going around the town and saying we're gonna add.
It's really going around the town.
Town always knows that with special education.
Right.
That there are going to be ebbs and flows of where we have to meet certain needs. That's actually the one area that's a much clearer, easier conversation, that anytime we talk special education, they're very aware that you're now dealing with legal elements, where in other staffing areas, you're not necessarily dealing with legal elements.
And of the 7 positions that you're saying were added, are those to school department?
Yes.
Weren't 6 of those recovered positions that we had
No,
been
they
cut?
were. 2 of them were.
Only 2 of the 6 were recovered positions?
Correct.
Well, technically.
Recovered
the
versus
coach,
repurposed.
the-
Yeah, repurposed.
Yeah.
Repurposed.
They were, I mean,
There's a distinction there.
there is a distinction.
There
That we
is.
had
And we're not
lost
We
back.
added 10 positions this year. We can vote to do it, but I just am not comfortable with it. So
But we're not.
I said my piece.
No, that's what I'm, that's what I'm,
Okay.
there's 7, they're asking for
Sarah, they're
1.
asking to add 3 FTEs today.
No, she just
No,
said
so
she was
we're
asking for 1.
Asking for 1.
And then we're looking at how we
And so
assign
they add
parents.
2 more because it's in the funding.
But-
And then we add them to payroll and then they get benefits. And next year we say, here's our level services, 10 new employees.
Well, I'm not agreeing to add 3 positions either.
That's what this
But that's
is.
not what this
No,
is.
we're asking for 1.
1 position. I don't necessarily
Where are the other ones
agree.
coming from then? Why do we have extra paras then? This is what I'm saying, like.
Mrs. Lodi and Mrs. Shea are doing exactly what you're asking. They're looking at their current para staffing and they're making assignments. Now, should we need, as the need comes in, what I'm saying is, yes, that's where circuit breaker and IDEA
Right,
comes
but
in.
it's gonna happen.
Well, we don't know that. I have to say, you have 2 exceptional administrators here who this year handled that influx without adding staff at an incredible rate, where the models that, some of the programs that we looked at, they were adding staff. We did not.
A significant tax on the staff that we have to be able to manage that level of students with that level of need.
When we've added staff, we post duration of need, which means at the end of the year, there's no guarantee. And then that staff member is not necessarily part of,
But that wouldn't
Our
be the case
number.
here though.
it would be depending on, because we
For
don't
the
know.
teacher in the
The
classroom.
teacher is the one we're asking for, yeah. No, that's not duration of need. Generally, this is around paraprofessionals.
Why
When
couldn't
we
it be the
have-
teacher be duration of need though? To Antonella's point.
It's tough to hire a teacher and say, well, you only have a
Well,
job.
if you're looking
also-
for someone who's experienced, possibly, any experience, they're not gonna leave another job for duration of need.
And with the hope of
Plus,
being
you also
able,
have a funding source for this.
But we get the money's coming anyway, Gordon. So we have to meet the needs of the students, I agree with. But any additional staff is an additional cost. The money's coming anyway.
So the money's coming.
Yes.
What are we using it for?
I don't know, we use it.
That's
every
what I'm
year.
saying.
We use it every year,
This is
Gordon.
what we wanna use
But
it.
not to add
We
full-time
don't
employees
use it every
in
year. That's why
perpetuity.
right now,
We do use it every year.
Because
Wait,
Pam
you
just said
have-
we're
you
rolling
have- you're
over
rolling
almost
over.
214,000,
We
right?
roll
But that doesn't
stuff
mean
over
we
every year.
used it.
so we're not using
What
it.
was last year's rollover? Do you happen to know, Pam?
I don't.
Yeah.
I would guess that maybe 150.
The kids need this.
I know, Antonella, but we
So I
just
don't
added some
know.
positions. I'm not
I
voting
get
to add
that.
any FTEs. I'm just putting that out there. We can
I get
pass
that.
this today.
But-
It's not getting my vote.
Our kids need it.
Then find other employees. We can't
It's-
just keep adding it.
But that's a difficult place to say find other employees because you have to have a
Hey,
specialized
gotta be difficult
license.
sometimes.
No, but you have to have a specialized license to do this. You can't pull,
I'm not saying Paul, we have people that have left this year and that we haven't replaced, perhaps, through attrition. We'll use the FTEs through attrition. I don't know where you get it. I don't have the answer to that, Sarah. I'm just saying, I am not comfortable adding any more FTEs to our budget. Don't wanna do it. I didn't want it. I did the 7, I voted for it. I don't wanna do any more. The town
saying,
added
look at
10,
some- look at-
17 employees we had.
no, the town has 17 employees.
17!
That's the
It's
town, but you
madness.
can't say that is us.
I think we have to remember the fact that we were just cut 6 positions a few years back. And so 6 of those were positions that were recovered. So to look at that as 7 brand new when Meadowbrook lost 3 positions 2 years ago. So that's
But we added, to add 17 in a year because I don't know how much you know, we didn't fund capital projects in our operating budget this year. So next year, we're gonna have to fund $1 million plus in capital expenditures and maintain the existing FTEs. It doesn't jive.
To
To
Greg's,
add another one, it's not responsible, I don't think, for me. I mean, I could be wrong.
But
I
you've
could
got
be
the
wrong.
needs, you've got the needs are there.
The need's there. Find the employee somewhere else, the FTE.
I'm not.
but is that a possibility? I guess if that's a fair question to ask, no, but I think his question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, do we have another building where we have a retiree?
We don't.
No, there's no retirees this year?
We have retirees, but we've filled them. We've already filled, that's what the hiring in the spring, once we got our budget, we filled those positions.
Okay, and those were
But you
still
also
deemed
don't-
necessary at those buildings?
Correct.
So far, as the annual reviews have come up, I understand you don't have all of the numbers. Have the majority of the annual reviews been handled in such a way that there's been a significant reduction in the need for one-to-one as a result of the
Not
1
yet.
to 3?
No, because some of the annual reviews that took place in the spring, we hadn't finalized the preschool model yet. So this really is going to have to be something that we set now and begin. If you don't have the staff set in place now, we're never going to get ahead of that one-to-one. And then once it's written as a one-to-one, you're right. That's something that just continues to go through. It's really challenging to move that out of an IEP. What was being recommended to us was staff your preschool in a way, teacher, up to 4 paras, so that you can handle that situation when someone comes in from early intervention and has significant needs, where you have the staff that can flex. So that's what we're trying to set up. And we're also have to start to, in the annual reviews going forward, see if we can show, hey, not only can we support this, hopefully your child has made a certain amount of progress, and gained a certain amount of independence, so that maybe the need for the one-to-one is not there as much. But I can't
I
guarantee.
don't think that one-to-one goes away is that easy,
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's gonna be
I would
easy.
imagine a
But
lot of these
if you don't build it,
families come with,
it's not going to ever go away.
I don't know, but a lot of families come with advocates, I bet, and the way it's always been is
Right.
one-to-one is spot one-to-one, and they get one-to-one
We've never,
if needed.
we've never built it like this, which is why we're trying to put the money behind it this year that we have. We not only have the.
But did we average 4 paras in the classrooms last year?
We
We had less than
did
4
not.
paras, so this is what I'm
Three.
saying, this is a big expansion.
Yeah.
If you wanna put 5 adults in the room, you're talking how many more employees for this whole program to
You're
get
talking
there?
about just pre-K, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's why we're taking the paras and going through and assigning now.
Right, so you've
And
got.
then,
Right, so,
then we're,
but
then
the
we're
point
seeing
is-
what other needs.
This model sounds good in theory, but it is more employees than we have now.
Unless, and let me ask this question, it doesn't,
So why is it better? Why isn't one-to-one better than this program?
Because eventually you're not going to be assigning one-to-one.
It will use
And-
less adults if we do assign one-to-one.
And I think if we work through it this year and we have the model in place, we'll start to move away from one-to-ones.
I know that, Gordon, but if we have 4 or 3 adults in the room last year, and we're trying to go to
In
5.
some cases, we had 2.
This is my whole point then, you're making my point. Then we have to get to 5 in every one, so there's a deficit
I'm
of
talking
adults.
parents, I'm sorry. I'm
And
just-
I
Okay,
think,
so 3
So
adults,
three-
but still,
three-
we
three
need
or
2
four.
more, times 3 is
So-
6, plus the 5,
I
you're at
think-
11 to get to 5.
No, so you had 3 plus a number of one-to-ones. And
Well, that's
our
what I'm
whole-
asking, what was
yeah.
the
I
average?
don't have that off the top
If
of
you
my
walk through a
head because the
preschool, how many
kids
adults
shift.
were in the room? Roughly.
Let me look at what I have now and then I could probably better
More than
answer
4,
that
less
for
than
you.
4.
Right now, currently, with one-to-ones
That's
counted
last year.
in,
Last year.
probably more than 4.
Okay, then we're not far off.
Yeah.
That's all, I just
We
want an
also
idea.
had-
Yeah.
Just to give you another example, we also had one-to-one nurses and one-to-one CNAs.
But
And
they're gonna be there anyway.
No, we started to move away from that too.
we're trying to move away from,
Oh,
yeah.
We've already achieved, we've already achieved.
Wow, yeah, okay, hey, good.
We
Great.
have also been
But
able to
Greg, it's
reduce a
slow
few
process.
one-to-ones
We
in the
have to
past year.
build the preschool. We have to build the model, and in that, you have to gain trust.
If you're
I
a
know, it's just
parent,
tough to add staff to then get the results down the road.
and I can understand that, but
With some of the at-will employees, we've started to do that.
Yeah.
And we've had to, am I correct? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be talking over you. In some of our annual reviews, that's where we've had immediate success. So we've gone from individuals who were one-to-one at-will employees, and we've been able to put in place an individual who's gonna oversee all 3 rooms.
if you're a parent of a 3-year-old coming in with significant
Sorry.
needs, and you know your child is going into a classroom that would be staffed at a 3-to-1 ratio with 5 adults for 15 kids, your level of comfort's going to be very different than if you're a parent of a 3-year-old with significant needs coming in to know that there's only 2, maybe 3 adults in that classroom. In that situation, you're more likely to advocate for a 1-to-1 to be with your kid at all times, because you know those 2 to 3 other people are changing diapers, feeding, and trying to meet the needs of a lot of 3-year-old
Maybe some
kids.
people, but I would imagine a lot of families already know what they want going in. And to convince them otherwise, based on a student who would receive a 1-to-1 in the past, is similar to this student, how can you deny me the 1-to-1?
We've never staffed this way before. We've never had it immediately.
I know, but it sounds good, but it doesn't sound that, if I had a child that was with severe needs, and my mentality was 1-to-1, if you told me there was 4 people in the room or 5, I don't think it's gonna change my opinion. Maybe it will, but I think it's not gonna happen every time, so we're still gonna have some 1-to-1s, plus the 5.
There will be some kids that truly do still need those, but in a lot of cases, we don't feel that that need is there if the program is supported adequately.
Yeah.
In order to meet the needs of the kids. We have to keep in mind that these are 3-year-old kids that can't put their own shoes on, zip up their own coat, open their own snack packages. It requires a significant amount of support. And when we're providing that and getting the kids in and able to see them and get to know them better, we have a better idea of what their needs are as compared to having them come in and just going right towards that model.
No, I know, it's the full-time employees issue. I agree, I understand the concept of it, I can appreciate it, but.
But is there the capacity also, because it is Meadowbrook, to flex paras from K1 and 2 into preschool?
The way we can't really move any of the pairs out of kindergarten because there's 1 assigned per classroom. The place that we're really looking right now is the 1-to-1s, which kids have moved from a 1-to-1 to maybe, we have 1 right now that we're working on moving towards the 2-to-1 para to free up another staff member. Or we have had some success this year with that. And it takes time for a number of reasons. One is we need to build the skill and capacity of those kids to be able to function within that classroom environment. And once we're able to do that and see success with that, it's easier to pull back on that. But by front loading the program in the way that we're doing, we're able to build that capacity without adding that 1-to-1 into.
Yeah, if we're able to front load the program, which we haven't yet, right? Yeah.
But that's where
I think a good,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I
No,
think
go
a
ahead.
good way to look at it is, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Thompson, and it's scary and it's a lot of money and it's more FTEs. But we pay now or we pay later with interest. And this is what's good for children. And this is a total revamp of our preschool program. And we want to come out of the gate strong and successful and hopefully keep building each year.
But
Does that make
that's
sense?
part of the problem though, based on how we built our budget already this year, then to put this on top of it, then to think we can again add more next year, we're gonna hit a wall next year funding wise. It's coming, I believe that, and I'm in a minority on that, but I think it's coming. And so to add another position or 2 or 3 means only next year we're gonna have to look at cutting positions. And I'd much prefer not to add positions than to have to cut them next year. Because we've been through the cuts. and they're hard, and they're coming. Because I don't think the town could sustain adding 20 positions and get into 2.5%. How are we gonna do it? I mean, already it's at 4%, we have a 4% level services next year, which we've never been anywhere close to that. So that's my concern. I agree with the need. But I'd much prefer not to add FTEs for it. Is there a classroom available? Where would you put that?
I have created about 10 different maps of the building and where we could rearrange things in order to try to make this work. I don't have extra classrooms floating
Right.
around, but it would require some creative combining of staff that we currently have in spaces.
We may open up where you have them all in one area, right?
That's the hope.
Which is
And
a
how,
good.
what about scheduling? Did they go to specials, correct, preschool?
We
That's
are,
all new this year.
with the addition of a full day program, that's a new element in order to be able to, because we've also moved from a 4-day-a-week program
Yeah.
to a 5-day-a-week program. So the addition of specials, yep. And we are doing that through very creative outlets where we're using, say, occupational therapy to provide a fine motor skills special rather than just sending them to regular specials. So it's taken a lot of creative thinking to try to make this model work.
Okay.
My big concern is just really the number of special education students that we have and how far out of whack we're gonna be with those ratios real fast. We were starting the year off out of compliance with the ratios, so to know that we're starting in a place where we usually end is concerning to me. If we're to get another, even if we just go based on the numbers from last year, 18 new students over the course of the year, and we're already at or over capacity in our rooms.
Those are 18 new IEP students.
We got
for
18 new
504.
students on IEPs in preschool alone last year. I don't know where we would put 18 more students in our current scenario. And that's why I'm here.
So is the ask for,
Teacher,
but for what purpose? Like what model?
to.
Would be to add an additional full day preschool classroom.
So one educator to serve as the full, as an additional full day.
With potential for additional paraprofessionals.
Right, but those would be on your special ed funding, your grant. So we would
Still
go,
get that money, Gordon. So the money,
Yeah.
it's additional cost without additional revenue and not built into the operating budget.
But are the para
Well, it
positions
is
written as
additional
at will or no? When those postings come out?
parapositions that we posted this year were duration of need. So at the end of the year, those parapositions are not part of our necessarily paras we bring back. And that's where the assignments come in.
Okay,
With
Well, we
the-
always bring them back. When's the
No,
last
that's
time
not
we
true.
cut paras?
That's not true.
When's the last time we had less paras one year after the year?
The
Except when we had to
Last
cut.
2 years.
Well, we had to do that though.
With the hope being that as this model gets built and settles in
and
and becomes
truth be-
successful, some of those one-to-ones can be phased out, and then those duration of need positions don't need to come back, because now those
Because you have
one-to-ones can
ones
shift
that
to
come back.
become
one to
those
two.
classroom paras.
I know, I'm still not sold on that model because there's more bodies than we have now, or at least the same amount. So it's gonna cost more. I don't know. We raised tuition, so I guess that's there, but
Well, and so that $48,000 comes in, and then any addition, we've got the tuition revolving account as well as circuit breaker to supplement any,
I mean, that's the
right, but we're,
difference.
this is a negative. We're not, this will cost the town money because the 48,000 is not gonna cover
no, but we have
Half of
That's
them.
where circuit breaker comes in.
circuit breaker and the
We have that
tuition.
money anyway. That's not additional revenue created by this new preschool. So this new preschool will
It's
create
not self-sustaining.
48,000. That's all it creates. The rest of the funding is coming whether we put them in one preschool class or the other.
I don't know that I agree with that train of thought, simply because our preschool program in the past only charged $1,800 tuition and could not sustain anywhere near this number of
We
peers.
didn't always bring in
That's fine, but that's
131.
money's still coming in, whether we add a new preschool or not.
131,000, Greg, because we were a 4-day-a-week, half-day program. We weren't bringing in the 131.
More like 28,000,
Right,
Versus 131?
correct.
We didn't go up that much. did we?
Yeah.
because it's $6,000
6,000
for a
versus
full day.
1,800.
For
So,
one.
so what
2,200.
we're giving you is what's coming in, and then if you add the additional class, so that's all next year. That's not previous years.
But this is already built into the budget, Pam. You've already accounted for that revenue, correct? Not the 48, but the rest.
No, not the 131.
Yes, we did.
Did you?
Just hang on, I'm thinking about my timing here, because I want to seriously answer accurately. So when we started to talk about this, that was during the budget.
It was May.
So, yes, so it would have used some of these revenues for a teacher, for the additional teacher, but we also, ESSER was
ESSER was what was.
ESSER what was
That's only
used.
one time.
Well, it's through,
Well, through
September 24.
September
Yeah,
2024.
I know. Yeah.
so
you're
you have annual special education money, which is your circuit breaker and your iPad. You have revenue that's coming, it's new. So 179 minus the 22,000, right? That's
Yeah,
the
but
new
that's fine,
revenue.
but that revenue is still coming in. Is
No,
my
it's not.
point.
It hasn't
Yes,
been in
it
years-
is. The
years
131 is now coming, whether we add the preschool or not. Yes,
For
But
next year.
we haven't
Right.
dedicated it to,
but we have. It's
Some
in
of
the
it is
operating budget,
allocated to, some of it is allocated to.
and the rest will stay in the revolving
That's
account.
correct.
Yes.
Roll over to
Which is what
help
we
with
did.
now you're adding
these type
additional
of
money to that.
things.
It's fine. We have 4 members here today, so we're gonna be just fine, maybe. I don't mean to speak for others, but.
All right. Yeah, you know.
Go for it, Antonella.
Better you than me, because I was trying to word it in my mind. Go ahead.
I know.
Move to approve adding one educator for a preschool full-day classroom for this for the school year of 22, 23, right?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Antonella, second by Bill. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 3-1. All right. Thank you, Don, for being here today. Thanks to Renee and Lauren for coming to see us today. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Bill,
Second.
second by Greg. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And that motion carries 4-0. Thanks, everybody.